We're up. Here we go. All right. Hanging out with Adam. We're talking about 7702. Maybe this is even like a little bit like a retrospective or something. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing very well.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, and I want to get a banner up there like a radio guy. Boop, 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 boop. Don't forget UX Scout. We're going to talk about that a lot today. But really the main focus is 7702, right? And you've done a lot of sweet reconnaissance on 7702. You've got UX Scout scouting ahead. So maybe remind us what 7702 is in the first place.
Yeah, so I guess about a month ago, so May 7th, Twitter was awash with excitement over 7702, latest DIP that was going to bring a whole host of UX improvements to Ethereum. That's what we're excited about. So I thought, well, firstly, it'd be great to quickly talk a bit about what it is beyond the sort of four-digit number, but then also like check in on like how adoption's going, like what's happened in the time since then. So I've just got a couple of things to try and really quickly illustrate it that from another conversation I had, which I think you can throw up. You have that power.
This one here?
Yeah, this guy.
Right. Yeah.
So super simple. It's maybe an oversimplification, but before your EOA could like send transactions and receive ETH, I think that's pretty much it. And obviously you could do a bunch of stuff if those transactions were interacting with smart contracts. But actually it's kind of limiting because your account couldn't actually execute any code in and of itself. This is the account abstraction problem in a bunch of ways. 7702 was a really elegant way to solve that problem by letting your EOA identify the code, so set the code that they want to be executed when your account is called. So suddenly it can go from just being a ETH holding transaction sender, it can now be essentially any smart contract. Obviously, wouldn't necessarily want to just set it to be any smart contract. There's a whole world of like smart accounts, which already existed, but now your EOA can become a smart account, which means that it can like store data. So again, that data could be a bunch of things, but most obviously it's going to be like, do you want to have multiple signers? Do you want to add session keys? Do you want to like have recovery, like all those kind of things that a classic multi-sig might do, for example. But then also it can execute code, and like mostly that's going to be that you want to execute code on other smart contracts, but you can do, instead of having to call them one by one in one transaction, that can all happen in one go. So it's a sort of simple change, like a subtle change, but actually unlocks huge possibilities. And it's like the actual stuff that needs to happens over a couple of tiers. So firstly, the chains themselves need to hard fork. This was the hard fork that happened on May 7th. And obviously all the rollups need to do the same thing. All the other like EVM chains need to do the same thing. So this is supported everywhere. And that's been happening. There's a load of infrastructure. Actually, the infrastructure folks were really ahead of the game, ahead of the curve on this. So support here is pretty good. Then your wallets, your wallet actually needs to enable this capability, or you need to be able to set the code, do this very special type of transaction. And then apps need to essentially move from just thinking that their users are like ETH holding transaction senders to essentially smart account holders. And like, why is that important? So the most obvious one is almost everyone will have gone to an AMM and like gone to swap, and you need to approve
the approve pattern. Yeah.
And then you do another transaction, and like turning that into one transaction is the obvious. That's the low hanging fruit. Then like maybe it gets a bit more exciting. You start to think about being able to do gasless transactions, any account being able to have sponsored accounts in a sort of native way, and that's pretty cool. But then it gets to the crazy, more exciting stuff, which is like chain abstraction, access control. I mentioned account recovery, like multi-factor like confirmations for your hot wallet, like privacy stuff. So essentially the sky's the limit. So I think this is why folks are excited, because we want to get to this third stage. But there's a bunch of work to get from here to there, and essentially that process didn't start on May 7th. That was essentially when the stuff became possible on mainnet. There's been a load of work that's built up to this being possible, but wanted to chat through essentially since then, like how things have been looking.
So this is kind of like where we are at now, right?
Like, yeah, and yes, and so I guess there are a bunch of lenses. So there's some folks who've been doing some great work on sort of tracking adoption at the sort of like looking at the data on one chain across chain. So maybe we could quickly check out a couple of those. And then there are obviously a bunch of folks. So you mentioned UX Scout. So UX Scout is a site that I started more just because I had this long thread that was tracking all the 7702 stuff, and it was more like, oh, can we take all the stuff in that thread, try and put it in one place to make it a bit more legible and like the changes that you need to make, and then tracking across changes like where they're at, when the upgrades are expected, looking at the different infrastructure providers, how they're supporting stuff, wallets, and so starting to essentially track this over time, and also trying to like hero and highlight folks who are embracing this to unlock new improved user experiences. So that's UX Scout, and there are a bunch of I mentioned analytics. So there's some great dashboards. So I initially started out thinking about making a dashboard, but then particularly there are a couple of really interesting ones that have different strengths, which we could kind of talk about. And other folks are also tracking this. Folks might have seen 7702 beat. There are a couple of those at this point, and so essentially there are a few people all trying to triangulate like how it's going, like if stuff's actually getting adopted. But after a load of initial excitement, which was great, and I think there was a bunch of energy there, things have been a bit quieter since then, but there's still really active progress too.
Amazing. So we had 4337, an account could deploy a contract, but this allows an EOA to straight up upgrade to something. It allows us to do all this new stuff, which means that like you can turn your EOA into a multi-sig or turn your EOA into a batch transaction maker. And that's particularly nice because the user experience around ERC20s is kind of dumb because you have to do the approve pattern. You don't just like send tokens into a contract and it runs. There was tons of hype. Everyone got in and was excited about 7702 changing things, and things are kind of dying down now. What do we got here? We're showing, this looks like, that looks familiar. I think that's your EOA, right?
Yes, this was just to showcase sort of like exactly kind of what it looks like when you look at a block explorer. So this is my EOA on mainnet, and you can see that they've got the information of like what the delegated address is.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So this is one, and again, I think you can see, is it going to be in other transactions? Yeah, so you've got like authorization, so you can see the authorization I did 26 days ago to authorize the Ambir account on this, and this is one thing.
Early adopter. Very nice.
There's a bunch of subtle things, like you need to do this per chain unless you sign with a zero chain. So there are a bunch of nuances, but there's even with this thing, there's this interesting thing where as a like illustration of how the of how adoption isn't always like super, even within one product. On different block explorers, different Etherscan block explorers, some have got this functionality, others don't, even though the chain supports it. So like it's just like they're just filling in all the gaps. It's like whack-a-mole, I guess. Is kind of where things are in terms of just making sure that actually everything is 7702 ready.
So did this solve the UX? Like I remember even in 4337, we thought, all right, we're going to have gasless transactions. This will make it so you can come in and just use an app. Some people picked it up, some people didn't. Some people even were afraid of implementing 4337 because they saw 7702 was coming, and there was like a chilling effect on 4337 because 7702 was even announced. Like Vitalik YOLO'd it an hour, and it actually like slowed down 4337 progress. He kind of teabagged the 4337 EIP. But like, did this solve UX? Like, is it solved? What do we have to do from here? It feels like not yet. It feels like there's a lot of work to do. Like still, I am still clicking approve when I go to Uniswap to swap things. Am I dumb? Do I need to upgrade? Like when I go swap right now, I'm definitely still clicking multiple transactions. Am I doing it wrong?
Yes, I think so. I think there are a few things, and I think I said so. There are a bunch of like early movers who were super early to, particularly on the wallet and app side. So like MetaMask was super early there. Like Ambir have built their whole like wallet extension pretty much around this capability. They're sort of making it a real part of their proposition. And some other folks were there. And then I kind of feel like no one else sort of followed on. I was expecting there to be a bit more of a rolling thing. But then like even today, there've been a bunch of big announcements. Like, so Uniswap have added support in their wallet. That's both the app and the extension, which is cool. Gelato have added, like, create an SDK for smart accounts. Arbitrum have announced or confirmed the date when it's going live on Arbitrum. Polygon's hard fork went live on their testnet. So stuff is still happening, but it's still kind of making its way through, I guess, this top to bottom thing. And so overall, I'd say that UX isn't solved, and even the low hanging fruit haven't all been plucked off. Like, I guess I've got a bunch of examples here which basically take so this is Uniswap, but like Jumper Exchange, all these ones which essentially give you just they approve and swap in one transaction. It's like a nice party's trick. Is the easiest one. That should be everywhere now, to be honest. And so we need folks to be essentially plucking the low-hanging fruit. It's also really cool to see people making really big bets on this as the foundation of what they do. So Amber Wallet is one example. They've like made it front and center. OTIM Labs have like essentially built a whole stack of like automation things around using 7702, and obviously Porto by the Ethic guys. They built their account very much around 7702, and that being like starting with the pass keys. You don't even have a
That's
classic
the future.
like EOA sign. So you've got people making really big bets on this, which is cool. So I think some mixture of like low hanging fruit, big bets. Also, somewhat classically, I guess, got to shout out to the crime enjoyers.
Let's talk about crime. Yeah. Wait, our hacked wallet recovery app is basically useless now because all of those hacked wallets are now 7702'd.
Yeah, so this is a thing where if you jump to let me see, it's in analytics. So if you jump to, I think it's the Wintermute dashboard. This is one where, like, if you look at this chart,
the highest adoption rate is in compromised wallets.
Yes, this is tracking the delegations. So again, this is the thing where once you delegate once, and then your account is basically a smart account until you delegate differently. And you can like revoke all delegations. You can delegate to something different. There isn't lock-in, but there's sort of lock-in. We could talk about that. But essentially, if you look at these days, these big spikes, like if you were looking at this chart and you didn't look more detailed, you'd be like, wow, what a great day for UX on the 9th of June. But then the Wintermute folks went and actually looked at the contracts that are being used and adopted, and they've tagged them, which is super interesting. And you can see there's a nice steady growth. If we've got the retail wallets here at the bottom, maybe we can solve it. We've got service ones,
crime,
and then this is crime, which is
this ecosystem.
And then they've tagged them as crime enjoyer and crime enjoyer 2. So there is massive,
as if that's a single person that's doing that, or like I don't understand why there's crime enjoyer and crime enjoyer 2. What's the difference between the two? Like crime enjoyer is like a whole group of people who are controlling a whole bunch of compromised wallets, right? This isn't just like two dudes somewhere.
So I mean, it's a good question. Essentially, they're only using 2 crimey wallet delegate.
Okay, you've got to delegate to something, and so they're delegating to this shitty something that's like a sweeper. It's probably like a 7702 sweeper that just does the rug of every single asset, and there's kind of 2 versions of that shitty sweeper.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So that's we're talking well more than 50% of delegations, which is
if you want to really be an adopter of 7702, just put your seed phrase in GitHub. Don't do that. Don't do that. Patrick Collins would yell at me for even hinting at it. Your whole hard drive should be encrypted double. Yeah.
But anyway, so as with a lot of stuff, you've got criminals leading adoption in this case. Which is a shame. It also slightly muddies a bunch of the stats, right? Which we're just looking at the authorizations as. So a shout out to Xerox Kofi, and who's got Bundlebear. He's added, which was a sort of 4337 tracker. He's added 7702 tracking, and I see this there's a bunch of things that are cool about this one. It's like cross chain, rather than just being mainnet. But I think the really cool thing is that. Rather than just tracking the authorizations, he's actually then tracking the usage of those delegated accounts. And so this is then that interesting thing where you can look at the smart account actions by type. And this is where I think that quite a lot of hard work was required to actually get the data into an acceptable thing. Because one of the simple things about EOAs, I mentioned that they're like transaction senders. You can kind of see how active an EOA is based on like if it's sending transactions. Whereas now there are like a few different types of transactions that can be made. You can have like your smart account EOA can still make regular EOA transactions. You can
But they could be
still
relayed. Like you could be not actually doing anything but signing messages and handing them off and never actually hitting the chain yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So basically so you can just make a regular EOA type transaction where you just call some other contract. You could have a EOA transaction from your own EOA to your own EOA to execute some more like batch execute transaction, or you could have a like 4337 user op type transaction, or you could have like a relayed action by some other like account abstraction like relayed thing. So you have this like a bunch of different ways. So actually tracking that is non-trivial, but thankfully this number, the non-crime number, is up and to the right as well. Obviously, this is actual real usage of these delegated accounts, and you can see that it's still like it's a mixture, right? I don't know how well that's showing up on the screen.
But interestingly, there's more relayed transactions that are not 4337, which is like the traditional relayer for the last year or two. Am I reading that correctly? Like basically 4337 is down and generic 7702 relay systems are up.
Yeah, that's the way. Okay. That's the way I read that. I guess I preface this by I don't know. I haven't cross-checked these numbers. And
do your own research. Yeah,
do your own research.
Yeah,
the trend is good, but like mostly, even if these are still like slightly iterative, like I think directionally the trend is good, but it also highlights that even these upgraded EOAs are still making a bunch of regular type transactions. And I guess there's two things there. One is like, in some cases that's no problem, right? Like if you have ETH, if you're using an app, you don't want to make a batch transaction. Like it's not necessarily bad for your UX, but it's just not leveraging the full possibility where you could abstract gas or abstract like a whole bunch of chains. And so all that's to say, crime is up, but thankfully also regular usage is up, and that's been powered by, I guess, a bunch of the adoption across the stack that we kind of talked about, and people are plucking the low-hanging fruit. People are making big bets. I think we're getting there, but we just need to. I guess the main thing as a builder of products in the space is to not anchor too much on the old way where you make the assumption that everyone's coming with the EOA, they're funding their own transactions. It's like being open to some of these new approaches, which you've kind of closed off because most of the like existing user base hasn't been able to use them because they're all just like comfy in their EOAs.
Just randomly, I think you already maybe have a video of this, but let's say I'm an old school MetaMask user and I land on Uniswap for the first time, and now there's this delegation. Is it just going to be another one of those MetaMask screens that I don't read anyways, and I hit go and then it's done? Or like, do I have to do something in the app and do something in the wallet, or what's the interface like?
Yes, that's a good question.
A user.
Yes, I guess we didn't talk about this, which is that when it comes to the apps, they don't actually think about 7702.
It's the other one, the 5.
Yeah, 5792 is the one they need to be thinking about. Or well, they could think about a bunch of things as a whole thing here of like what's the right way to leverage this new capability. But 5792 is basically rather than sending a transaction, you send calls where you basically say these are the contract on-chain calls that I want to make. And I guess the analogy I kind of use is a bit like the difference between if you're using like if you've got a database, you could either like craft your database transactions one by one, or you could use something that's a bit more like like Drizzle or Prisma, a sort of SDK that sits on top of your database and maybe makes it a bit more ergonomic, gives you some other capabilities, that kind of stuff. And we're kind of stuck in this, like, when I make an on-chain transaction, I'm going to send a thing which specifies the exact contract, who the thing's going to be sent by, like even the nonce and the gas usage, a bunch of stuff which could actually be abstracted more from the app. And you could just say, oh, I want this user to call this, or like I want this user to call this account. I want this user to call this account. I want that to all happen in one transaction. so maybe there's like a simplifying apps if they are willing to like build for this new standard, or to use a bunch of the other potential approaches.
Okay.
Anyway,
So
I guess to answer your question, like if we do jump to, I guess, Uniswap and do some swapping.
okay.
Let me try and work out if we what account I've got that isn't on the right.
I could share one. I did a swap this morning for a classroom too. I could just share a screen real quick and do a swap, and it'd be an old school swap. So your swap is ready to go, like 7702 style. Is that right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I do a swap. Here we go. Let me add me. Okay, so I'm going to swap just like some ETH. I want to go to a stable coin. Let's see. What do I have here? It doesn't even matter.
This is the thing, you want to swap a stable coin if you have one, because ETH doesn't need the approved. That's the
yes, it needs to be a coin because it needs the approved pattern, right? Yeah. Look at all these great coins I have. Let's go rad to ETH. You remember rad?
I was looking at my stack of rad only this morning.
Yeah. How's it doing?
I don't ask these questions, man.
All right, here we go. I'm swapping 69 rad. Now what we should see here, oh yeah, very nice. But then what we should see here is, $5 fee. That's gonna hurt. Here we go.
Get off.
Oh no, you can't see my MetaMask. Okay, hold on. I gotta stop sharing and reshare. I've got to do like the whole. Oh whoa! I just got a use smart account thing from MetaMask. Okay, hold on. Let me get a good. I don't want to say yes to it. I'm not gonna say yes to it. I promise. Let's see. I mean, I am soon. I am an adopter here, but let me share my screen a little bit better here. Here we go. Whole entire screen. That one. Let's go. Okay, now you see the whole screen. And when I hit swap here, get that out of there. When I hit swap, there we go. MetaMask comes up. So I do want to use a smart account eventually. So is this going to be it? When I hit this, it's going to go 7702 style. Like that's the upgrade. It doesn't say that clearly anywhere here. It gives me a bunch of text that I don't give a shit about. But
yes, I think this is one where I feel like it's a bit unclear, because I can kind of see what the wallet folks are doing who don't want to show all of the like gritty details, because for most users that would be off-putting. They'd be like, what is something like? Whereas
it should be a little rocket, and it should be like upgrade your account, and then there's only a button that upgrades, and that should be it. All right, here we go.
Anyway,
approve and swap. Are you ready to see it? Here we go. We're going to get one transaction that's going to have me approve my RAD, paying $1.20. Okay, and then that has to hit the chain, get mined into the chain. Indexers have to see it, and then we come back around. We're waiting. Someone validate that block. Maybe it will be me right here. It could happen randomly if they get a slot. Yeah,
that would be sweet.
Yeah, get my gas fees back. Get my $1.20 back. Okay. And now I sign a message. This is interesting. The swap is a signed message and not.
Yeah, so I guess that's because they're permitting.
Okay, because it has permit too. Oh, and another one. Okay, so there were 3 dialogues actually, right? And this one's going to cost me $6.85. So I had to 3 dialogues to make that swap happen. And this is just like, first of all, self-custody sucks. You need to be able to fingerprint in. But once you fingerprint in, you should be able to just say okay to the swap. And that should be it. And it should happen as instant as possible. And we're waiting on the chain. But that's it. Okay, so then going back to yours, now that I've swapped my 69 RAD. There we go. Okay, back to you. Okay, now let's see what a cool account, what a 7702 account does.
Let's see. So this is going to be one where I'm a little, let's see.
Yeah, do it on an L2, of course.
Do it on an L2 because I'm
that's smart.
I was thinking a bit today, do you have the thing where you're like...
yes, it is a very big number. It is like I could buy a car with the amount of gas fees I've spent on mainnet.
But the result, like I feel like if you started using Ethereum in a certain era, you have that vibe about using mainnet at all. Like for me, it feels like a hotel minibar. Like
don't.
Like if I touch it, I will go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Even more bankrupt.
I come home. I come home to that hotel bar and there's like a bag of chips and it's like an $8 bag of chips. Like I'm gonna get 15 chips out of this thing, and I know it's bad, but I'm a mainnet guy. I open that bag of chips up and whale it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so let's buy some ETH because
Okay, here we go.
that's the right
Yeah,
thing to do.
yeah, I think so.
So it's going to finalize
$1.
$1 worth of ETH.
Okay, and this is an ERC20 token. So normally you would have to approve and swap. It even says approve and swap. It looks like you're going to have to, but what's going to happen here?
Oh my goodness.
It didn't work, did it?
Didn't work. Oh, wait, I know why. Cancel, because I'm on mainnet. And on mainnet,
you've only 7702'd your mainnet account.
No, so on mainnet, I've delegated to. You remember we looked at myself.
You can delegate different places on different networks.
This is my Amber. This is an Amber delegation. So this is maybe a weird. Like I think that if you're a 7702,
confusing.
Weird things.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's what Jesse from Base was explaining, like why the Coinbase wallet isn't quite at 7702 yet, and like his big thing was like 7702 is not going to fix everything. There's a ton of UX here that once you get in and you start thinking about it, it gets way more complicated.
Except I think that my thing with that is that I think that that's the wrong way to think about it, because the complexity exists like for existing users, and I love everybody.
But it's time for mainstream adoption, and mainstream is going to be a completely different UX, and we should stop doing it for old users, or what?
So I think we should think about folks who have EOAs which are in weird states and all this kind of stuff. I think that is important, but the hero thing is mostly like if you've got a fresh EOA, you can sign once with a 0 chain ID, use that delegation across any chain.
Okay.
You've then that's the thing that Porto's doing with their approach, which is like you sign once, get the smart account everywhere, because you also in their case you throw away the private key. That means that you can never redelegate, which that has some complications for sure, but that then just means you don't have to worry about multiple chains.
Right. And that's it. Like all of if we look at the Venn diagram of all of the people in the world and those that are, crypto users, when mainstream adoption happens, it's going to be you land on a website to use the website, you click the buttons that you want to click to do the thing you want to do, and there's going to be one fingerprint in something like Porto, and then you have accounts across all chains and they're already delegated to everything. And from now on, anytime you do anything scary, it's just a fingerprint and that's it. There's not a big wall of MetaMask explanations for things, I hope. Cool. Okay, so now here we are.
So I only have one USDC on.
Okay. Really cheap scaring us. I spent like 100x just now on main. All right, let's see. What do we got?
Let's see. Is this gonna?
There we go. A single swap. Yep. There's no approve and swap. Here comes.
Here we go. Transaction request. So, oh my goodness, approve, execute. I don't know why they're
nice. This is nice. Yeah. No, I like how it's all zipped up.
It's all zipped.
Well, sort of. It hit you with, it hit you with 70% of it, but then it hid 30% of it. How about you hit me with 10% of it, hide 90% of it? That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why I have 2 approves here. You see?
Yeah, I do see, but I can't explain.
The spender is this one, so I'm approving this one to spend.
Maybe it's a one hop thing where I don't know. No, I don't know.
Either way, I guess for
beep, boop, 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 beep. Okay, I totally understand all of this. And send.
Oh, it worked. Great.
It worked. That's the point. Yeah. You should say going to swap USDC to ETH. Okay. And then swapped USDC to ETH. That's it. That's all the information I should get. And I could maybe view more. I would like to read a book and it could show me that, but there we go. So yeah, so there's multiple transfers here. Is that what the multiple approves were for?
Yeah, it could have been. I think I need to have another, I guess we can have a look. Because yeah, so I'd say one thing is that suddenly block explorers do become a lot less legible.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I look at, I don't know if you ever go to Like if you
Well,
go
I
to
do an example where I deploy a voting contract and everyone votes and you can see the votes right in line with the transactions. But now that like a vote is going to be wrapped in another transaction that is batched and it's going to go to a batching contract, and then deep in there somewhere is the call data for what's actually happening.
yes, I think in this case called transfer. So yeah, so maybe this is weird. So yeah, it looks like I called transfer with some
Transferred all your
additional
money
data.
to ATG.eth.
Yeah, so includes data in the
Crime.
input field. um, but this is one of those things where suddenly it does become a bit more like essentially block explorers need to start to be smarter, I think, about the stuff they show.
Yep.
Make this
Dig
work.
in and realize it's a batch transaction, and then have like a nested set where it's like, here is the first transaction, here's the second transaction, and we're going to decode that for you. Oof, that's going to be a lot of work probably.
Yes,
But that's
yeah,
good. It takes the work to make no work for the user at the end, right? Do the work so the user just clicks the button and everything is magic.
yeah, that's the hope.
Okay. Shill, one more time. UX
Yeah.
Scout XYZ if you want to keep track of things. So where do we go from here? Like what's the closing? What's next here?
Yes, I think so. I think UX Scout others as well, like are still trying to spread the good word and get folks excited. I think calling out the folks, or well, rather highlighting the folks who are doing
Shout out
good stuff.
Ko-fi, shout out Bundle Bear. Yeah.
And yeah, Swiss Knife, April, like some great folks.
Swiss Knife, yeah, Apuruv, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out to the Porto team and what Georgios is doing there. Shout out to the Coinbase wallet. Like you guys are basically going to bring mainstream adoption in, because the last elephant in the room is me and my seed phrase in my sock drawer. Like not a good idea. It's not really there. Don't come looking.
but then I think the flip side is start to call out folks who are moving slowly. Maybe
Ooh,
like
wall
I
of
don't know.
shame.
Well, this thing where like now if I see a approved step, I get like I'm like on like it's just take it. It's just but then also just like we just gotta keep building. Like we're chatting about some stuff we're building, which kind of showcases this stuff. Okay, when you combine it with like what does it look like when you combine it with cross chain, with like some specific use cases. I think there's that sort of using it to build new stuff as well. And yeah, I think.
But really, it all comes down to build an app that people want to use and hide all this crypto shit until they start making money. And then you kind of have to give them a little bit, but not much.
Yeah. But overall, yeah. And as well, I guess as you said, Jess, you said like there's a bunch of hidden complexity, but I think it's worth the squeeze to make the UX good when we can.
Hell yeah. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Adam. Thanks for giving us an update on 7702. Maybe we do it again in a few months. Have a good one, man. Thank you.